Yukiteru Amano is a socially awkward junior high kid with no friends, a habit of obsessively documenting life in his cell phone diary, and two imaginary buddies, Deus Ex Machina, the so-called god of time and space, and his mischievous servant, Muru Muru. One day, Deus decides to shake things up and turns Yuki's phone into a future diary, letting it predict events for the next 90 days. Cool, right? Not really, because this gift comes with a catch. Yuki is now one of 12 contestants in a brutal battle royale, where each player has a unique future-predicting diary, and the only way to win is to kill everyone else before the world ends in 90 days. If his diary gets destroyed, he dies. The last one standing gets Deus's throne and becomes the new god of time and space. Just yesterday, Yuki's biggest problem was making friends. Now, it's staying alive. Yukiteru Amano, or Yuki for short, is your classic socially awkward loner. Instead of making friends or doing normal teenage stuff, he spends all his time journaling on his phone. His favorite pastime, chatting with his imaginary friend, Deus Ex Machina, who just so happens to be the actual god of time and space. But Yuki doesn't question it too much. As far as he's concerned, Deus is just a fun little delusion to keep him company. One day, Deus decides Yuki's life is way too boring and decides to spice things up in the most unhinged way possible. Instead of, say, helping him make a friend, Deus gives Yuki's phone a terrifying upgrade. His diary can now predict the future. Sounds cool at first, like, who wouldn't want a personal fortune-telling app? But there's a tiny little catch. If his phone breaks, he dies. So, yeah, not exactly the life hack he was hoping for. At first, Yuki assumes this is just another weird daydream and ignores it. But then his diary starts predicting his entire day with eerie precision. Homework answers appear before the test even starts. He manages to dodge the school bullies with pinpoint accuracy. He starts feeling invincible until things take a horrifying turn. That night, somewhere in town, a woman is being hunted down. She sprints home in a panic, desperately searching for her keys. Before she can get inside, her pursuers catch up to her. Her story ends right there. The next morning, Yuki wakes up to find a chilling new entry in his diary, one that makes him realize just how real this whole thing is. As if that weren't enough to ruin his week, Yuki starts noticing something off about Yuno, the quiet and adorable girl from his class. He had always thought she was just shy, but there's something about her that makes his future-sensing instincts tingle. Before he can figure it out, his phone throws up a warning. 2 words that send a cold shiver down his spine. Dead end. Panic sets in. Something bad is about to happen, and he has no idea what. That's when Yuno shows up, all smiles, acting like she knows everything about the future diaries. Turns out, she's not just any classmate. She's another player in this twisted game. And her diary is specifically designed to track everything about Yuki. Yuki bolts. He doesn't know what freaks him out more, the deadly game or the fact that Yuno is way too obsessed with him, thinking he can escape. He rushes into his apartment elevator, slamming the doors shut behind him. He barely has time to catch his breath before he realizes he's not alone. Yuno is right there with him, staring at him like he's her personal prize. Just when he's about to panic, she drops a bombshell. There's a serial killer lurking in his building right now, waiting for him. Yuno, in her own terrifyingly affectionate way, has been tracking his every move and is determined to protect him. Whether he likes it or not, they're in this together. She drags him to the rooftop, preparing him for the battle of his life. Sure enough, the killer arrives, future diary in hand, thinking he has the upper hand. What he doesn't expect is Yuki suddenly growing a backbone and throwing a dart straight at his phone. The diary shatters, and with it, the killer's existence comes to an abrupt and very permanent end. Yuki barely has time to process what just happened before Deus pulls him into another dimension for a little meet and greet. Turns out, Yuki and Yuno aren't the only ones playing this twisted game. There are 10 other future diary holders, all living among normal people. Deus, ever the showman, lays down the ultimate challenge. This is a battle royale, and the last person standing gets to take his place as God. And just like that, Yuki finds himself in the worst possible position. Almost every diary holder wants him dead, and the few who don't are either completely unstable or way too eager to protect him. Yuno, of course, falls into the second category. She is more than happy to eliminate anyone who so much as looks at Yuki the wrong way. It all starts in the middle of the night, when Yuki is rudely woken up by a flood of text messages from Yuno. She has been texting him a lot, which leaves him wondering how she even got his number in the first place. Honestly, knowing Yuno, it's probably better not to ask. Yuki wants to talk to her about the very eventful day they had at school. Once he arrives, things take a turn for the weird. A girl named Minini starts interrogating Yuki about Takahiyama, the now-dead third diary owner. Yuki freaks out, grabs his phone, and realizes his future just got way worse. That's when Minin figures it out. Yuki is the first diary owner. Meanwhile, Yuna, who was just minding her own business in the girl's changing room, notices her diary go off. It warns her that Yuki is in serious danger. Without a second thought, she sprints through the school school, nearly breaking down doors to reach him. Yuno bursts onto the scene just in time, fire extinguisher in hand, and swings at Minin like a crazed baseball player. But Minin is no fool. She dodges the attack and dives straight out the window like an action movie villain. Instead of running away, she casually reveals that she has planted bombs all over the school. Her goal? Blowing Yuki to pieces. Now, Yuki and Yuno are on the run, dodging explosions left and right thanks to Yuki's random diary. Everything seems manageable until one of the blasts actually catches Yuki. He gets knocked down, and reality smacks him in the face. His diary doesn't tell him anything about himself, just everything happening around him. That means he can predict danger, but he's still basically useless at protecting himself. Yuno, being Yuno, is having none of this self-pity. She explains that her Yukiteru diary can predict everything about Yuki, meaning that together, their diaries form the ultimate cheat code. Basically, as long as they stick together, they are unstoppable. Yuno, of course, sees this as another excuse to stay glued to Yuki's side forever. Yuno suggests they go find their teachers and classmates, thinking they might help. Turns out, Minin had already bribed them with freedom. All they had to do? Hand Yuki over. And because high school kids are the absolute worst, they betray him without a second thought. Yuki is dragged straight to Minin, and as he stands there in the middle of a literal minefield, staring at a bomb right next to his diary, he realizes just how screwed he is. That's when Yuno snaps. In her mind, friends would never try to kill Yuki. Without hesitation, she goes full psycho mode, tearing through the school, dodging motion sensor bombs, and straight up slaughtering students. Yuki can only watch in horror as she eliminates everyone in her path. But wait, things aren't chaotic enough yet. Enter Kusukigo, the fourth diary owner. He makes his grand entrance by shooting a bullet right through Minin's hair just to get her attention. Then, like a true wild card, he whips out his own case diary and shows it to Yuki. Minin, not one to be outdone, issues her own challenge. Kusu has to kill Yuki, and then himself, or she will blow everyone. Without hesitation, Kusu aims his gun at Yuki's head. Yuki barely has time to react before Kusu pulls the trigger, apologizing as he does so. But Yuno is already in motion. She crashes through a window, tackling Kusu to the ground. Amidst the chaos, Kusu shouts for Yuki to run and retrieve his diary while he holds off Minin. Yuno, now fully in action hero mode, starts guiding Yuki through a minefield, dodging explosives while Kusu lays down cover fire against Minin. Things get tense. Yuno can't rely on her diary since Minin and Kusu are both out of bullets, and that means anything could happen. Just as Minin prepares for a final detonation, the remaining students who somehow survived Yuno's rampage decide to fight back. They pelt Minin with school supplies. Books, pencils, violin cases, whatever they can find. It's not exactly the most effective attack, but it does buy Yuki enough time to make his move. In a last-ditch effort, Yuki hurls a dart straight at Minin's diary. If he can destroy it, she's done for. But Minin is fast, too fast. She deflects the dart just in time, saving her diary, but she doesn't escape unscathed. The dart lands right in her eye. Yup, Yuki just accidentally gave Minin a permanent eye patch. Kusu, thinking the battle is won, declares Minin defeated. But Minin, she's not out yet. Smirking through the pain, she finally reveals the name and power of her diary, the escape diary. Before anyone can react, she activates a smoke bomb hidden under her dress and disappears into the chaos. Moments later, she's peeling out of there on a motorcycle. With Minin gone, Yuki, Yuno, and Kusu take a moment to process the insanity they just survived. Kusu, ever the strategist, decides they have no choice but to team up if they want to survive this ridiculous game. Yuki and Yuno's already insane life takes yet another chaotic turn when they meet up with Keigo Kurusu, a police officer who basically tells them, hey, just a heads up, meaning Yuryu is still out there and definitely still wants to murder you. So, naturally, the best way to handle this life-threatening situation is by sending Yuki and Yuno on a date to the amusement park. Because, yeah, that's totally what you do when you're being hunted by a terrorist. Yuki, understandably on edge, decides to just go with it, mostly because he has no choice. Throughout the day, he watches Yuno closely, and something strange happens. He realizes that when she's not being a completely terrifying stalker, she actually acts like a normal girl. They go on a bunch of rides, including a ghost train, where they both end up screaming like little kids. Turns out, future diary holders are not built for horror attractions. Just when Yuki thinks he's starting to get a grip on the situation, Yuno decides it's time for a pool park. Yuno stops to ask an attendant to grab her top, but before she can get it back, another swimmer accidentally knocks her straight into Yuki's arms. Yuki, completely flustered, floats away in shock, questioning every life decision that led him to this exact moment. Eventually, the attendant hands Yuno back her top, and they move on. Then Yuno notices a planetarium and suggests they check it out. But Yuki, in full panic mode, bolts in the opposite direction. When they finally slow down, Yuki takes Yuno to the Ferris wheel wheel, and, in a rare moment of bravery, finally asks the question that's been burning in his mind: why is she always following him? Instead of answering, Yuno flips the script and asks why he ran away from the planetarium, bringing up something personal: his wish to go stargazing. Yuki immediately accuses Yuno of reading his diary, but Yuno doesn't even flinch. She reminds him that he actually told her this himself. A flashback comes in a year ago. Yuki and Yuno are sitting in a classroom, filling out those annoying write your future goals assignments. Yuno, completely blank on what to write, sneaks a peek at Yuki's paper and sees that he wrote stargazing. When she asks about it, Yuki explains that after his parents' divorce, he never got the chance to go. Before he can erase his wish, Yuno stops him, casually offering to marry him and go stargazing together. Yuki, assuming she's joking, laughs it off and tells her they'll do it when they're older. Fast forward to the present. Yuki is shaken. Yuno was serious this whole time. His brain short-circuits from the realization. Later that night, it starts raining, so Yuki and Yuno buy an umbrella and walk home together. Meanwhile, on the complete opposite end of the peaceful spectrum, Minin is still on the run from the police. She ditches her outfit to throw them off, but while hiding, she suddenly gets hit with a full-blown PTSD episode. Memories of her family being killed in the middle of a war zone. She shakes it off and keeps running. But no matter where she hides, the cops are always one step behind. That's when a mysterious man, Yamatsu Hirasaka, shows up and whisks her away to his log cabin in the woods. Minin, exhausted and injured, accepts his help when he offers her medicine. But surprise, it's drugged. Yamatsu grins, snaps his fingers, and reveals that Minin's diary is now made of wood. She's been hypnotized. Oh, and to make things even worse, the dude is now wearing a mask and a full spandex suit. Minin, completely paralyzed, can only watch as Yamatsu starts interrogating her about Yuki while casually pulling out her injured eye. Meanwhile, Yuki and Yuno arrive at Yuno's house, and she invites him inside. The house is eerily quiet, and to make things even creepier, the power is out. Yuno offers Yuki an apple, the only food available. Something about the whole situation feels off, but Yuki just rolls with it. He decides to find the restroom, using his diary to guide him, but instead, he stumbles across a taped-off room. Naturally, instead of leaving it alone like a sane person, he writes it down in his diary and then decides to open the door. The second Yuki turns the handle, every diary holder's phone blasts out a flash of light. Even Deus, the literal god running this twisted game, is shook. He watches the timeline completely shift, muttering to himself that Yuki might just be his favorite to win. Back at the house, Yuki freezes. Inside the room are 3 corpses sprawled out on the floor, surrounded by bloodstains. Scrawled across the wall in a desperate, bloody plea are the words LME. Yuki's brain short-circuits. Before he can even process it, Yuno appears behind him, her eyes full of tears. But she's not crying because of the bodies, she's crying because Yuki opened the door. She whispers, "Why did you open it?" And just like that, the happy ending vanishes from her diary. Yuki does the only rational thing. He sprints out of there, all the way home, and locks himself inside his house. He collapses, breathing heavily, convinced he's finally safe. But then, the letterbox creaks open. Yuki looks up, and there, staring down at him through the slot with the most horrifying, psychotic expression, is Yuno. After a night of zero sleep, Yukiteru Amano wrestles with the horrifying discovery he made at Yuno's house. He debates going to Keigo Kurusu and telling him everything. But there's just one problem. Yuno is watching his every move. Her eyes follow him with that unsettling intensity, a silent reminder that she knows exactly what he's thinking. Any attempt to expose her might not end well for him. The next day, Kurusu takes Yuki and Yuno to Omakata Temple, a place that's as ominous as it sounds. This is where Minin Uryu is supposedly being held after her abduction. They're granted an audience with Tsubaki Kasugano, the temple's head priestess, who calmly introduces herself as the 6th diary holder. With an eerie smile, she explains the function of her clairvoyance diary. It records the future observations of her devoted followers. And now, she says, she has a dead end looming over her. Tsubaki wastes no time making an offer. If Yukiteru agrees to protect her, she'll hand Minin over to Kurusu. Yuno, as expected, hates this idea. She's practically vibrating with barely contained rage, glaring daggers at the priestess. But Yuki, under pressure, reluctantly agrees. That evening, Tsubaki takes a moment to warn Yuki, telling him not to get too attached to Yuno. Before he can process the warning, chaos erupts. Without warning, Tsubaki's futon bursts into flames. The temple's followers flood the room, their eyes vacant, movements jerky, as if controlled by something unseen. As if in a trance, they begin pouring fuel on the fire while hacking at each other with axes. The air fills with the sickening sound of blades against flesh. The room a swirling nightmare of heat, smoke, and blood. Yuno immediately tells Yuki to leave Tsubaki behind. But Yuki's mind flashes back to the horrifying room at Yuno's house. Despite the overwhelming danger, he refuses to abandon someone in need. Against Yuno's protests, he charges into Tsubaki's quarters, determined to save her. Just as the flames threaten to consume everything, Kurusu manages to fix the temple's sprinkler system, dousing the inferno and clearing the smoke. But the nightmare isn't over yet. As the fires die down, Tsubaki's diary updates with a series of disturbing reports. Her followers have been witnessing strange figures lurking around the temple. That's when it hits her they've all been hypnotized. Meanwhile, deep within the temple, Yomatsu Hirasaka, a masked man with a flair for the theatrical, stands over a chained-up Minin. Wearing a red eyeball mask and a spandex suit, he delivers a self-righteous monologue, claiming to be a hero of justice. He explains the rock-paper-scissors dynamic of the future diaries, their unique strengths and weaknesses creating a constant power struggle. Nini, unimpressed, watches him with cold amusement. She calls out his arrogance, hinting that someone like him might just meet their match with Yuno Gasai. And, as if the universe heard her, Yuno makes her move. Near Yuki and Tsubaki, the supposedly dead followers start to stir. Without hesitation, Yuno swings an axe and finishes the job, ensuring they stay dead this time. Covered in fresh blood, she smiles sweetly at Yuki, her voice soft yet unyielding. She presents him with a chilling choice. Follow her and live. Stay with Tsubaki and die. That's the end of the recap. Let us know if you want part 2 by leaving a comment in the comment section down below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to become lucky one same as our virgin MCs. See you guys in the next video.